Friends. So there's a lot of talk going on all around the world about restarting of the economy after the lockdown. Not only in India, U.S. President Mr. Trump also has our favorite gentleman has also talked about it a couple of days back. And Trump being Trump, there's no other word to explain his theatrical performances. Said that, liberate Minnesota, liberate Michigan, liberate Virginia, because the Democratic governors of those states are saying that the situation is still very troublesome and they don't want to quicken up the pace of reopening the economy. So he's saying liberate those states. He's inciting people for a civil war through his tweets. Whereas the pace at which the virus is spreading to new areas is continuing throughout the world, though it is flattening in some parts like Italy, Spain particularly, but new areas are coming up. Turkey, a lot of places. WHO says that Africa could be the next epicenter. What about India? So, yes, I'm talking on April 18th, when the number of new case infections have reached high. 1000 more than 1300 new infection, 1300 new infections have been reported from different parts of India. So probably it's too premature to talk about opening up of the economy, but government said there is something will be done after April 20th. Some relaxations are announced. So we'll discuss that essentially. But certain things I want to, the government said today that FDI from all the neighboring countries, it won't be an automatic route and it will be through with the prior government approval, right? So this after some reports have said that a Chinese bank, investment bank, has acquired around 1% stake in HDFC Bank, and there have been fears that taking advantage of the coronavirus pandemic and low pricing in the share market, some Chinese investment banks may try to take over some of the industries, already sectors which have been badly affected, like automobiles and all that. And even the opposition leader, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, has also written a letter to the government asking the government to tighten the FDI rules. And industry organizations have also wanted government some protection. Um, that's okay, but what is more important is about the MSME sector. The MSME sector has been badly affected, as you have been spoken about it a number of times after DeMon and GST, which contributes to around 45% of our exports, employs around 11 crore, 12 crore people, contributes to 30% of the GDP. So 45% of our workforce is employed. So there are more than 6.5 crore MSMEs which are very small. So average size of employment is less than two, in fact. So it has been crying for attention. Now the problem is everything has been shut down now. But the government has asked them to pay the salaries for the period. Instructed them, advised them to give the salary for all the workers and not to retrench the workers and pay them the full salary. But it's really ironical when state governments across India have been reducing the salary of not only MPs, the political class, but also all classes of employees, and some state governments are deferring the salaries of this month. If the governments are not able to pay their own staff, how can you expect a small MSME to pay their workers? Right? It is just ridiculous when the government gives us an advisory. So that the key thing is the MSME associations want the government to step in and pay the salary for the workers, right? So that could be somewhere around the region of 1.5 lakh crore per month. Given the state of government finances, we can't expect the government to do so. But then there could be some way could be found. For example, one suggestion could be, for example, most of them have taken overdraft from banks and all because there's no work at all. They have but they have to pay their suppliers, they have to pay the rent. There are overhead charges which they need to maintain, and some many of them have taken loans from banks and NBFCs. They have to repay. Some of them have got overdraft and from the banks and paid the salary for March. But April, almost everything is complete. At least till May, March 24, they were functioning, so they were able to repay. They pay some amount of salary. But what will they do in April? So a big headache for everybody. And obviously, the workers' family need money. How they will run their family? How, of course, the government again has given an advisory to the house owners not to get rent from them and all that. My house owners have been asking for rent today. I gave them the check also. So it is just not possible because everybody will be asking. They have to pay for their regular monthly expenses except the school and other things they have to pay. So we have to find a path to take care of the MSME sector as a whole and the workers who are working in that particular sector. One suggestion has been the government has to pay one third of the salary of the workers. That the union government and the state governments have to work out in what ratio they will share among themselves, and one third has to be paid by the owner, and maybe the workers have to forego one third of their salary, but they'll be at least getting two thirds so that their routine things can continue. So this is one suggestion. Probably we should. So if one third has to be paid by the government, that should be the burden should be somewhere around 50,000 crore or so, which is more manageable at the present moment. But there are certain things announced by the government are completely rubbish. For example, the government has asked NHAI to start collecting toll tax from April 20th onwards, which has been suspended after the lockdown has been announced. Then it will further burden the everybody, including the common man customers, right? So even essential commodities then have to pay the toll. It is not the time to bother about fiscal deficit and all that nonsense. Anyway, the amount being collected through toll tax is not that very high that the government should focus upon that, right? And this is not the time for all this stuff. Like the government increase the petrol and diesel prices, though the world crude petroleum prices have hit a historic low, just to mop up more revenues. Just, of course, is really rubbish. um, Anyway, so now government has classified the different parts of India into three zones. Around 123 districts have been called as red zones, where the number of cases have been pretty high. There have been clusters of cases. The rate of increase has also been pretty high. And most of these 123 districts are coming in western and southern part of India, whose business contacts with the outside world is very high. Whereas around 170 districts have been classified as orange zones, where there are cases, but the rate of increase has been not been that high. And whereas the remaining districts have been more than 300 districts have been classified as green zone. Most of them come in eastern part of India, Odisha, Bihar, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, and Northeast India. So where which are economically very backward and therefore have very little interlinkages with the outside world, economic linkages with the outside world. So, and again, the government has announced that from April 20th onwards, some activities will be reopened all over India. That includes agricultural operations and agricultural and allied activities like fisheries, forestry, etc. Okay, no problem with that. We need to start that. Yes, one important positive thing has been that all the rural NREG activities will be started. So that will provide some amount of hope. Not only the NREG thing, government also will transfer the money immediately to the beneficiaries so that at least they'll get some cash at hand to spend right now. Um, Apart from that, transport activities, they said goods transport by road, by trucks, by train, will be started. Ports will be functioning. Airports for goods transport will be functioning. Land ports will be functioning, and all that. Probably that's the reason why government has said that toll tax also will be started, because trucks they are allowing for all activities now. All the goods can be transported throughout India. Um, and the problem is, yeah, I'll come back to the issues later. What are the things then? Other than that, the government says that this some SEZs, export processing units, EPZs, and export oriented units, EOUs, and all those things can be started, but they are given a standard operating procedure, SOP, for social distancing and all. But as you know, this won't be followed in India. And the problem is, most of the SEZs are situated near the big cities. As you know, all the big cities of India, whether it is Delhi or Delhi, Noida, Gurgaon belt, the industrial belt. Government also said IT companies and ITES can also start operations with 50% of the staff, and most of them are located in Noida and Gurgaon. Noida is definitely a big hotspot actually, so it's pretty dangerous to start operations, because people have to go together in transportation and all that. Yes, assuming that that IT and ITZ company arrange transportation for people, still it will be, we are creating chances for the virus to spread faster. Then Bombay, Thane, Pune belt, industrial belt, Ahmedabad, Bombay, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Madras, and of course Calcutta. All the big cities in India, where most of the economic activities are concentrated, are being affected, and they are all red zone areas, highly vulnerable zones. So most of the SEZs and export oriented units are situated in these areas. So I don't know what logic is there in starting these activities in these areas. The better thing should be for the green zones. As I said, more than 300 districts are classified under green zones, and not they have not even seen even a single case. Because they are mostly agricultural and tribal, the tribal part of India. Even in states like Gujarat and Maharashtra, which contain a lot of tribal areas, they have not seen any cases at all. So we can restart most of the activities in these areas, like opening up of all the shops and starting up of MSMEs in this area. At least something connect. Yes, I understand some there will be some raw material supply, but some of them will be having some stocks with them. So we can start some activities, because as I said, MSMEs don't have many workers with them, unlike the export processing uses, where hundreds and thousands of people go together to work in a unit. Here there are on an average, I said, there are around 6.5 crore MSMEs are there, and around 11.5 crore people work. That works out to less than 2 per unit. So the rush will be much less, and you don't need transportation facilities, which there's a potential to spread in the bus in which they travel together, because most of them will be living in the village nearby. They'll be coming individually by their own, by walk or by bicycle. Bicycle is still an important modes of transport in the rural India. So I think we can start certain activities. Yes, certain things given in the green zone should be no, absolute no go, like educational institutions, like theaters, like hotels, restaurants, and all those things, etc. Unfortunately, that sector is badly affected. We can't do anything about it. But one good thing is, in cities, restaurants are working, even though people are not allowed to go there, and Zomato and all those things are also supplying. Things. You might have heard a case that one pizza delivery boy was tested positive a couple of days back in Delhi, and 72 families to which he has supplied have been quarantined also. So also from April 20th, courier services and e-commerce services will be started and all. But there is a heavy overload, and they are hiring. In fact, Big Basket and Amazon and Flipkart are hiring people to deliver, because their orders are, because everybody is now buying online, and mm, uh, I don't know whether they follow the standard operating procedures, and there should be careful check by the health authorities, that because through them it can easily spread to the customers. We should take care before we start opening up the economy, and started. The opening up has to be done in a very calibrated manner, very phased manner, and a very careful manner. And I think one size fit all approach cannot work, because it has to be dependent upon the capacity of the local administration. For example, let's say Nalanda district in Bihar. if it is green zone and we are allowing certain activities there, we should find out what is the capacity for testing that we should that there should not be any let off in those activities, right? So the testing, when you talk about testing, it is still very low in India. Still India has tested less than 250 people per million population, whereas the European countries and US are testing more than 20,000 per million population, and even many Asian countries are testing 10,000 per population. Even Pakistan is testing 420 people per million. India is testing less than 250. So the testing capacities are also very less in the eastern northeastern part of India. We should strengthen that. There cannot be any let off, though they have not seen any cases at all, because it can easily spread. Because now studies are saying that, which also I said, WHO said it is not an airborne disease, but some studies in US say that it is an airborne disease. It can spread even 4 or 5 feet also. Merely by speaking, asymptomatic person can easily transmit to people also, other people. So we should be very careful in opening up of the the removal of all the beginning of all economic activities. And the calibrated approach, as I said earlier, is a key word right now, that let's not rush things, yes, there is a trade-off between inevitable, that is inevitable, the trade-off between health on one side and containing the virus, and on the other side economic activities. Right. So the government should have taken, should have anticipated that the lockdown would be for a pretty long period of time, and what should be done for the workers, and farmers and agricultural workers, not only workers of the industrial sector, but all this thing. So as of now, I don't think it is right to start commercial or industrial activities or recreational activities or religious activities or cultural activities. At least 2 months, 3 months, all should be shut down. They are not essential at all. But in the green zones, we can start. Yes, if things improve, we can slowly open up more areas as, for example, in the orange zones. If red zone, if there is no new case for 14 days, then they say it will be classified as orange zone. If there are another 14 days, if there is no more new cases, then it can be brought into green zone and all that. Obviously, we cannot start long distance train services and all that. But there are long flight services also cannot be transferred for at least for the next 2 months. Just we have to rule it out, domestic and international flights. Of course, international flights depends upon the situation in other countries also. But yes, as I said, in northern Bihar, in the all the contiguous around 10-12 districts in the Kosi belt, they are not seeing any cases at all. So we can start some local transport like buses and all within these areas, right? So some semblance, but at the same time, we should always monitor what is the testing capacity of that particular district, and what is the status of public healthcare system in that district. How much maximum patients it can handle, what are the total number of beds, what are have they created any isolation wards, what is the total number of ICUs in that particular district. So all that, so if there is even an iota of doubt about any spreading of disease and all the virus, then immediately we should bring it, green zone should be brought back to orange zone, and more restrictions should be imposed. The wait and watch, that's the most important thing right now. Let us not rush into anything, because the government has to think what it has to do for the workers. Yes, as I said, please think more about that and transfer some money to the owners, which can be given directly to the workers, instead of, because they can't, because MSME owners are not Ambanis and Tatas. They cannot give money to salary to their workers, because they themselves are hand to mouth existence, facing that problem. So that is the most important thing. What the government is going to do for MSME sector will decide the response, what we are going to do, how fast we can reopen the economy and all that, etc. Let's see.